good for kids and will give them some choice and give competition in public schools, which is exactly what we need.
Vouchers to private schools.
I'm in favor of vouchers, maybe on a limited system, kind of work your way into this to kind of, so people, once again, it's kind of like the gun issue, they blow it completely out of proportion. Then you look at what other states have done, including Georgia. I've been trying to keep up down there. They have going toward a complete voucher system. But I'm in favor of vouchers, at least the concept of vouchers.
Ability of homeschool students to participate in state school functions such as sports.
100% there. I mean, they're paying the same taxes that the other parents are. They need to be able to do this. I know some states are doing that. Actually, they're calling it the Tim Tebow law. I don't know if you know this or not. But, Tim Tebow was homeschooled but participated in athletics at his high school. So they pay the same taxes we do, so I'm in favor of that.
Ending teacher tenure.
On a limited basis. I'm going to have to say I don't want willy-nilly firing on that to make sure we do that. The tenure law in and of itself needs to be looked at in the state because I think it has been abused. And in fact, locally, I can name a few cases where I think that the teachers have hidden behind this law. So it does need to be modified. Whether I'm ready to say it and I'll do away with it, probably not right now. But we need to move in that direction to make sure it's not being abused to keep bad teachers working.
Okay. Education funding, obviously, with limited dollars, a lot of times you're choosing between two good things. This is wonderful, but this is maybe a little bit more wonderful. So a lot of it's going to be prioritizing. And where do you stand? Now, obviously, everybody's going to say, I'd love to fund everything. But what I'm going to ask you now is...
I didn't even say that, but anyway.
Well,
I know what you're saying.
But I'm going to ask you pretty much, if you had to choose...
things I don't want to fund, but
if you had to choose between one or the other, which of these would you support? With limited dollars, would you appropriate more money for more teachers or teacher raises?
Probably teacher raises. I would make sure we were hiring quality teachers.
Okay. Do you support pre-K?
I supported pre-K, held my nose, and supported pre-K for at-risk kids only. And we've reached that target. I'm not for expanding pre-K in the state of Tennessee from where we are right now.
Okay. So then would you support more pre-K or K through 12 education funding?
K through 12 education funding, that's the easy one.
Okay. Pre-K or school infrastructure?
Right now, school infrastructure is where we are. I think we've reached that maximum point on pre-K. I'll just be quiet and let you ask me a question. I know it's kind of hard.
No, that's fine.
I got excited about these. The governor, when he sold us the pre-K, whole pre-K issue, at that time he was for universal pre-K, denied it to begin with, and then came back and said that he was for universal pre-K. So I think we've reached that maximum point where we're serving most of the kids that need to be served, and exactly what we predicted, Stacey. I guess I know you have, because you keep up with things on this. But right now, the governor, the very first pre-K program he had, he pulled $25 million out of the lottery fund to fund the pre-K, and now the lottery fund is dropping like other areas of our state government. This year he wants to take $14 million out of the general fund, so eventually we can take that whole $25 million away from the money coming out of the lottery. I'm adamantly opposed to that. We got about $300 million surplus in the lottery right now. Let's pull that $14 million out of that surplus and fully fund the 25 out of the lottery funds and not take it out of the general funds. His goal, obviously, is to get this out of the lottery funds where it's all in general funds, and that doesn't need to be done.
Okay. Pre-K or more scholarships with the lottery funds?
I think more scholarships. I do. I don't know about. We're talking about more scholarships, a better funded scholarship program. We don't have a fully funded scholarship program.
Okay, well that would lead into my next question.
Okay.
More money for scholarships or expand the number of scholarships that we do have?
More money for scholarships. Because there have been those the liberals in the legislature tried to expand the scholarship. I like it where it is. I wanted a merit-based scholarship, not an entitlement. So I don't want to expand the people we're giving it to, but at the same time, the ones that are getting it deserve to get a little more than they are.
Well, that was my next one, merit-based or need-based. Do you support?
No, I'm for merit-based all the way. This needs to be something you earn, and it's achievable, and they need to get there, because that teaches you something about life later on down the road if you actually earn something. So I am big time for merit-based. And the fault that actually the State House time and time again have tried to make it a needs-based or almost an entitlement. And if it hadn't been for the State Senate right now, no doubt about it, it would be a needs-based scholarship. But we held firm on that and said it's going to be merit-based, and it is merit-based.
Okay. Right now, obviously, we have, with limited money, a lot of people say, a lot of colleges, and I'm sure Upper East Tennessee, here in Knoxville, other places, say, hey, the higher ed needs money. But other people say, well, K through 12 needs money also. And a lot of times you have to pick and choose. a lot of people believe with higher ed especially, they have the ability to raise tuition and therefore raise their own money, and they should be pretty much, not saying we're going to cut them, but would you leave the funding pretty much where it is and try and invest more in K through 12, or try and put a little bit more into higher ed and maybe not so much into K through 12?
My priority right now would be put more in K through 12, but higher ed does need to be looked at. I've actually seen a flow chart of the hierarchy and the administration of several universities and how it's grown over the last several years. I don't think we're getting the best bang for the buck there, and that's something I struggle with, and I really do. It's relatively easy, Stacey, to figure out if we're getting our bang for our buck in K through 12 education. You test on the 4th grade, you test on the 8th grade, you test before you graduate, just like we're doing right now. Have some of the best data of any state in the union, and you can kind of see if kids are progressing. But how do you get that same model into higher education? I mean, you could go with graduation rates in 5 years, you could go with placement rates, but everybody argue that's not the way. So I struggle with how we can do this, and I think we're going to, over the next year or so, going to take a very, very close look at our whole higher education system. Do we need the 3-tier system we have now? And hopefully we'll be able to pull back on some of this and actually put more money in the classroom and not as much in administration.
Okay. Illegal immigration, a very hot button issue. A couple of years ago, it's cooled off a little bit, but still very hot for a lot of people. Allowing employers to mandate English only in the workplace. Do you support that?
I voted for it 3 times so far.
Okay. Well, I guess that'd be a yes.
That'd be a yes. We passed it in the state Senate 3 times and never passed the state house. They keep killing it over there. I don't have to tell you.
Yeah. We went through those battles, but
oh my goodness,
we're still fighting them. But
I know it. We passed that 3 times in the Senate now.
Driver's license test in English only.
Voted for it 3 times so far. Once again, that's another bill we passed the state Senate at least twice, maybe 3 times. I know at least twice, and I voted for it every time. I'm 100% there.
Okay. One that's sort of a little more controversial with business owners is making business owners mandate that they check the Social Security number and making sure it matches through the E-Verify system, making sure that it matches the person's name previous to employment. Some employers say, hey, that's too high of a bar, too much work for us to do. That's something the government should be doing. Other people say this is the only way we're going to stop the illegal immigrants from being able to get jobs. Would you support mandating the name match the Social Security number previous to employment?
Yes, I would. And here's where I am on that, because I'm very pro-business, and I'm a small businessman myself, and I know how that stuff works. Where I don't want to get into is I want to have some kind of punishment for business owners that don't do this. But at the same time, if you were misled as a business owner, if somebody gave you false information, you have to. I want it to be the word knowingly being there. We've talked about that. You have to knowingly break the law, not accidentally break the law by hiring someone that furnished you documents that you thought were correct and come to find out they're forged. I mean, I don't want to ever get a businessman in a position that he has to make sure that everybody he hires and everybody he brings forward that he check the whole background behind this. But if a businessman did best intentions, did everything he could do, then that's what we can do. But there's some people want to go so far as to say that even if you didn't know it, that you should have checked into this. If you didn't know, you should have known. I don't get into that too much, because I know how a small businessman is. I mean, you have a lot of things on your mind. You're trying to make a living. You're trying to make a profit. It shouldn't be your responsibility if somebody gives you fraudulent documents to have to worry about that. Punish the person that had the fraudulent documents.
But you do support, so just so I can be clear,
okay,
do you support the E-Verify previous to employment?
I do. I do support the E-Verify. I do. We're going to make sure the E-Verify is working. I think it is, but yes, I support it.
Okay.
I do.
Photo ID to vote. Mandating photo
voted for it twice so far. I mean, these are bills that have all passed the Senate. We have passed the voter ID to a photo ID to vote, the driver's license in English only, and the third one that you said, English only workplace. All that's passed already this year again in the state Senate. And you know, Stacey, for about 5 years now, I've traveled the state selling the message that it matters who governs. And these are perfect examples of that the people